Hello viewers, welcome to this episode of the Youth Roundtable. If you read the preamble of our constitution, you'll appreciate that Uganda has had a turbulent history in terms of its political trajectory, from being a single party state under the UPC to no political parties at all for close to a decade, then to later on the movement system, and in 2005, upon pressure from the population, we had a referendum that opened up political party participation, and now today we have a multi-party dispensation. But the question always remains that the capacity of these political parties, their growth, and indeed are they a representation of Uganda's political landscape. As we move towards the next general election, 2026, political parties find themselves, most of those in opposition, at war with themselves. If you look at the Forum for Democratic Change, there are two factions. If you look at the Democratic Party, there are multiple factions within. The Uganda People's Congress, and now, of course, the new kid on the block, the National Unity Platform, is also having its internal issues. The NRM, we don't know. We shall be finding out more on this show. Viewers, I'm joined by a panel of distinguished young people that I now introduce to you, and in no particular order. From the Forum for Democratic Change, and at this point I'm forced to put in brackets Naja Nankumbi, is its deputy spokesperson, Walid Lubega. Walid, we are pleased to have you in the go.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you. Good afternoon, our viewers and listeners. It's a pleasure being hosted on this civic space. I would like to, on my own behalf, and on behalf of the party that I speak for, to appreciate the management of civic space for offering us this platform so that we can add our voice on nation building.
Wow, interesting. Next to Walid and next to myself is a gentleman from the National Resistance Movement Youth Wing, and also the regional coordinator for the central region of a youth movement in the NRM called the Yellow Youth Movement. Martha Joseph is the name. Dugu, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Council. It was always a pleasure to be here to speak to the nation and the young people. Thank you for hosting me again.
Yeah, we are pleased. Walid, let me just begin with you. The opposition seems to have taken the media, and perhaps not for the very best of reasons. How do you look at the opposition playing out? You can speak for FDC, of course, but generally the opposition. Let's just begin from there. But also from the FDC's point of view, you seem to be at war with yourself.
First of all, parties must have internal contradictions. That is part of life. There is no any other party. There is no any party that you meet or interface without contradiction, including the ruling party. But in my own view and the view of FDC, how parties resolve their internal disputes projects those political formations as a serious lot. And it is a takeaway to all political parties and even those which are to be formed. Commenting on the current situation, I think political parties on a broader scale, we are not united. Reason being, we have different goals and to achieve. Secondly, I think we also have ego. There are political parties which think they have arrived, and allow me to comment on because it will be unfair to talk about the leading opposition party, to put it into perspective, because it is the one which must offer leadership of the opposition, and also to draw to give an analysis of how FDC was, and also the leading opposition party, how it is. The current leading opposition party, I think it has tried, but I think there is a lot that is that leaves to be desired. One, there are a lot of, especially in Parliament, a lot of bills which requires concerted effort of opposition. But we only see a syndrome called everybody for his own, God for us all. We live in that kind of thinking. I'm bringing it to give examples like, one, we had the Lumu bill, which we thought it would be a platform, a basis of opposition coalescing around that bill to come up with even activities and the strategies. Good enough, all political parties in opposition were in opposition to this very bill of Lumu, the bill that wanted to change the mode of election of the leader of opposition from being designated by the ruling, the majority opposition party to an election, which we thought was intended to diminish the influence of opposition in Parliament. My party, I can speak for it, we went to the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, and we presented our views in rejection, in opposition to the bill, and even other parties. But we never saw it as, for us as FDC, we thought this was an opportunity where the leading opposition party was to mobilize the opposition parties in the House.
But
so that
Walid, aren't you being escapist? Because you expect the NUP to mobilize and organize the entire opposition when you cannot organize the FDC itself alone internally. Aren't you asking for too much? Like, you're asking for what you haven't even done in your own political party. You have a group in Katonga, then let's first address the issue within the FDC before you can think of a grand idea of, an entire opposition coalition, something.
One, the issue in FDC were addressed. The issues in FDC were settled in a two-way. One, we had a commission of inquiry led by Professor Nawiso, which settled the matter. It presented the report to the National Council, where it said there was no any iota of truth that the dirty money came to Nadia. And the report was discussed by National Council and was adopted. Secondly, we went to election, the party grassroots up to the National Delegates Conference, where we emerged as the Deputy Secretary, and even other leaders took office. Last year, on 6th of October, 2023, so we had a new election. Our colleagues decided to go and form a new political party. So I can't speak on people who decided to move on and form a new party.
But do you think
so you want me to speak to
where
them?
Do you think the spirit of the FDC is? The spirit that we know
lies
FDC.
with Nadia, absolutely. Because it is not new. Parties are not prison, that you should conscript people into a prison set of. Betty Kamia was in the party, was part of the people who formed this very party. She disagreed with the party, went, formed the Uganda Federal Alliance. We had no problem with her. Retired Major General Mjishamu disagreed with the party, went, from the Alliance for National Transformation. We have no problem with
So are you pleased that your members keep on living
the team led by Lord Mayor Dr. Besji and Extra went and formed the Katonga. I hear they are in advanced stages of forming a new political party, PPF. We have no problem with them.
Are you proud of?
We wish them well.
Are you proud of all these exits?
No,
because you speak like...
That is how parties evolve. I know the NRM which is the ruling party today. It is not the NRM of 86, where Dr. Besigye was, Kategaya, Miriam Matembe, General Mugisha Muntu, and all of them. The Jabez Bidandi Salis, they are out. Democratic Party, the same. So parties move on. The National Unity Platform, it had Matthias Impuga and the team. They are no longer at par. They moved on. So that's how parties are. Because they are not a prison where you conscript people together, even if they feel they are not at par.
Okay, interesting. And I think I want to bring in Mata. Mata, you belong to the NRM and the youth wing to that extent. What do you think of the opposition moving towards the next election? Do they pose a real political threat to the NRM?
You see, when you look at the political peregrination of this country, and I think he has used the wrong word. He must have used the differences. That each and every party, it can have differences, or what you would call dissenting voices. World over, even when you look at all parties where we copy political parties' operations. But the nature of differences is what informs you of the survival of those political parties. For instance, in the FDC, when you had the retired Major General Gregory Mugisha Muntu, he had differences with Patrick Soboyo Moriat, but on the direction the party should follow. He was focusing on establishment of structures from down. The Besigye faction was focusing so much on the activism line of operating that no, we should get to streets. So it was simply an internal difference on the direction they should follow. And Gregory Mugisha Muntu decided to part ways with them and form the political party. What is happening in these parties? The differences are not on principle, they are personal. Because look at where all of these stories culminate from. You had the rumors that they received the money, and the team led by Nandala took part of the money to retired Dr. Kiza Besigye's residence to keep it. But as a senior politician, he could not break the news because they had a candidate in the election. You understand? Because it would be very dangerous if he let it out at that time. So you're reaching to the extent of people obliterating the other, destroying entirely. Now, these are personal. Political parties that are built on principles, even when you disagree, I don't agree with him that it is okay for people to move. When you look at 86, is giving a graphic example that is false analogy. When the Gregory Mugisha Muntu decided to part ways with the NRM, what they had agreed on in 86, Muzei had not fulfilled that. That we shall have 4 years, then in into a country, a generation. That is why you even had the Dr. Paul Kaonga Semogere, part of the same, the broad-based government. Because there were conditions that were put before on table. We must follow the same. When the government failed to fulfill what was agreed on, the messages part ways. That was on principle. It was not personal that retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye moved out of the NRM because there was a personal issue. All these seniors, Sejusa, Bidandi Sali, it was simply on principle. But I think the issue within the FDC, because it's where we started from, it also goes back to retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye. He has not... You see, when you retire, it is very important that you let those that have succeeded you do their work. Let them learn from their mistakes. The best example I can give to you, when Dr. Paul Kawanga Semogerere retired in 86, he decided to go and sit at his residence in Rwanda. Never at any time when he handed over to the late Sebana Kizito, never did you see him even hold a press conference to counteract what Sebana had done at that time. No. He let the young Turks grow. Let them take responsibility. Because we are human beings. When you do not agree that I have now retired, let the younger people take over, you're going to collide. This is what Besigye has failed to understand. You're out, but you still want to preside over a party, and yet you retired. He would simply be available for consultancy. Let the Muriats come to your home just to consult. That will help a party grow. So, Besigye's hand, and yet is the founding father. Of course, you cannot erase it today. It is still a factor. So, the catastrophic implosion you see in FDC today, it is entirely 70% because of Besigye. Him failing to understand that I have now retired, let me let the younger people take over the party. You have two factions, one of Najana Nkumbi and Katonga. You understand?
So would you apply the same reasoning for NUP? Because NUP, even as we speak, is on the verge of, there is a splinter group led by Matthias Mpuga, Abed Bwanika, that launched a new sort of outfit over sometime last week, the Democratic Alliance, where we saw this artist. So, but also if you look at the UPC, so the argument that you're applying for FDC, the big man syndrome, does it apply to these other factions that are also splinting? Because the obvious accusation has been that the NRM, your party, always has an invisible hand in the contradictions in these political parties.
The most fundamental role of any political party is to maintain its power. To the extent of obliterating the other forces world over. That is why, even in the US, you will hear Intel telling you that there was an attack on an office of DP by the Republican Party. You understand? You do not blame our weaknesses as political parties to the NRM, because that is what it's supposed to do. It is supposed to, it actually has to make sure that there is no existing countering force to its power.
But in a multi-party dispensation,
I understand it must create room for conducive operation of these political parties, realizing that they are there. But I'm telling you, Aldova, you must find how you can kill them internally. You cannot simply sit at your home. You must create intelligence within, you plant in, you see the operation.
So is this a confirmation that the NRM is doing these things to these parties? Are you confirming?
You do not. Of course it does.
So it means
it
means the money that was allegedly given to Nandala could actually be true.
Yes, it's true. Ndogo Chidega, you've been in elections. You can never sit and pay no attention to the opponent's camp. We plant in people. You understand? Whereas the government must create a fair ground, but there will be covert operations to see them die. And that is deliberate.
Okay, and I think this is where I bring back Walid. Walid, you've had, of course, the intentions to ensure that the opposition does not grow and thrive. So
it goes back to characters. Why do you allow to be bribed? That is why I am saying also the quality of leaders has deteriorated. The characters you have in leadership today are simply focusing on themselves. People did not go to NUP because they believe in Kyagulanyi. You see that celebrity panjandram. People did not, Empuga did not jump. And that is why I'm telling you, I have always told you that political parties in Uganda are very young. Those you prospected into NUP, did they undergo through orientation? Did they understand the core values and ideological principles that make up a NUP? Every day and the other, you're seeing a Mufumbiro, their spokesperson, telling us that integrity is an ideological principle. That is a core value. He does not know. You understand? So, the characters, why do you allow to be bought? It also goes back to the quality.
I think that is where Walid has to respond to, because the party that he belongs to, the Secretary General allowed to be bought. So I think maybe Walid can
before he comes in. I have seen senior leaders in this country saying that whenever you meet President Museveni, you will definitely change it to NRM. What kind of brains do you have that every time you sit with President Museveni, you must cross? Depends on the quality. What are the conditions that have been put for your meeting? Is it a structured meeting? Or you simply take your body? There are people you could not simply sit down and tell them to cross. The quality.
And just before we lose that point, I want to bring in Walid. Walid, the ability of the opposition to withstand what Mata describes as, all these sinister motives, to ensure that the opposition is weakened. Do you think opposition parties have that ability in terms of capacity of the individual leaders, but also in terms of how they are structured? Can they resist what the NRM brings at them? For example, the money that your faction received.
Thank you very much. I want to first of all respond to, I've listened to him carefully. He said the gentleman who left FDC on account of FDC, the current leadership favoring activism. I want to disagree with him. One, the current leadership believes in both party building and activism. For the last 5 years, when the tenure of Amliat, we've done a lot in terms of party building, which General Muntu did before. And also, equally, we have also invested heavily in activism. General Muntu left this on account of losing an election. Had it been that General Muntu had won that election, trust me, he wouldn't have left FTC. Secondly, on the issue of money, I heard you chest thumping that NRM is the one which gave money, both the party leaders, and I think that's a lie. It is something that was investigated by the Commission of Inquiry led by Honorable Professor Nabiso, and nothing was found.
Do you have a copy of that report?
I will furnish you with the report. It's a 19-page document. Actually, it is a public document. You can even Google it because we circulated it. And it had a full account of who said what. All the Dr. SJ was interviewed, and he never presented the evidence to that effect. But I know it is Museveni's wish to kill and annihilate political parties. Just as he said that by 2021, there will be no more opposition parties. Part of the grand plan is also to deploy malicious propaganda, like what my brother has been preparing.
Like
And it
like
is
which one?
done It is done internally. For example, Dr. Besige said he got a source from State House. And we were asking, how could State House, the people who are running State House, are hell-bent on consolidation of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni as a life president so that they benefit. How can Museveni aid you with information, which information can, in one way or the other, potentially kill a political party? And fulfill his long-standing desire to kill political parties by 2021. So that one, which my brother had just stamped, was a malicious propaganda which was investigated, and there was no cause. So if it was true that FDC was bought, by now we would be signing a cooperation agreement with Museveni. Because Museveni gives you money on condition. He doesn't give you money just like that. He has given it to Norbert Mao, and we all know where the Honorable Norbert Mao, his heart resides. He has a cooperation agreement with the regime. He posts as an opposition party, but which opposition party sit on the front bench of the state? He's a cabinet. He's a member of Museveni's cabinet. So by extension, Democratic Party is part of government. It is not part of opposition. FDC has no business with Museveni. We have no cooperation agreement.
Because we saw there was an opposition meeting held in Parliament where your FDC was not invited. So because if you're pointing a finger at Norbert Mao, even you, your group, was not invited by the leader of opposition. But we saw there Honorable Lukwago, we saw there NUP, we saw there ANT. Why? The question is why wasn't FDC Katonga faction part of that opposition meeting?
I've seen a tweet which was in response to my party leader, the Honorable Ingeniam Liatoboy, and that tweet is from the leader of opposition, the Honorable Joel Senyonyi, acknowledging that he reached out to Honorable Amuriat. Honorable Amuriat has jetted in this very morning from United States of America, where he went with the Secretary General to represent the party in the International Democratic Union.
But he could delegate other people.
And IDU is a platform for center-right political parties. So he failed to reach out to Honorable Amuriat, and we may leave it like that, but we put it to...
So you're saying that Honorable Senyonyi failed to reach out to the entire structure. Honorable Centenary is there, Walid is here.
At least in his tweet, we may give him a benefit of doubt. In his tweet,
I think it's
he acknowledged
far-fetched.
reaching out to Amuriat. The only issue we had with him is that the mode of communication, which has been the case before, between the leader of opposition's office with any party, is by writing. He would have done that through writing.
So you don't think it is a coincidence that Amuriat, Mao, Mpuga, the group that is seen to associate with the NRM, was somehow miraculously they all missed out on the communication, or somebody didn't reach out to them. It is to you it is not. It is to it is not
the office of the leader of opposition. So it is up to them. But I'm just quoting what the Honorable Joel Senyonyi said. And for me, I can give him a benefit of doubt for that, because he came out. If he said we don't recognize FDC as an opposition party, that would be another issue, which we would be debating in the same line, the way you are presenting. But if he acknowledged that he tried to reach out to the Honorable Amuriat, but he was unable because Honorable Amuriat was away in the US, then I can give him a benefit of doubt. But in his cabinet, shadow cabinet,
I don't know. If someone is in the US, is it possible to send them an email Or to
That
send
is what
them
we put it to
a
him.
WhatsApp message? Or I don't know. Does it bar communication completely?
That is what we put it to him.
You see.
Isn't he hiding
I have
a
failed-
pregnant
I have failed to
woman?
understand my friend.
Yeah.
That office, Dr. Engineer Patrick Oboya Muriat, as an office, you could send in a letter, then the secretary would simply take a pic and send. We've done that. You don't need a leader. Recently, we've invited a deputy speaker, but he's out of the country. But he has received and we are talking. Delegate us another person for our event.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what he's saying.
No, I think Walid is being a bit okay. In my view, I don't know how honest he's being, but me, what I see is that the opposition, as we know it in Parliament, perceives a certain group of political parties as associates of the NRM, and they intentionally leave them out
Yes,
really.
of their
Not
programming.
really.
That's the message.
Not really. I want to respond.
The
Allow me to
NUP
respond.
had, I think, a prayer something at in Kavule.
Headquarters.
I saw whatever Mugisha Muntu. I saw Elias Lukwago. Again, I did not see Patrick Amuriat Boy. So
no.
I don't know if you will see.
I-
It is an isolation strategy.
By the
Yeah.
way, you would have invited the NUP leader here to speak on behalf of NUP. I'm not privileged to speak on behalf of NUP, or how they decided on who should come and who shouldn't, because they are not actually the only opposition people you have said we have in this country.
No,
we have
but
many opposition parties.
They are the official opposition
but we have
political
even
party in
PPP.
Parliament. No, they are the leading.
The Honorable
They are
Saddam
the,
Gaida was not on that event.
they are the leading political.
No.
They have,
They have an MP from Agago.
Yes, I know her.
Yes,
The lady.
you
yes.
see, you need
the
to
lady.
read, no, you
I
need
know
to
her. The
read
lady.
much to know.
I know her.
So they have an MP. They were
Yes.
not invited. Justice Forum Jema was not invited to that prayer breakfast.
Are you sure they were not invited?
They were not there.
No.
But I saw
Does it
no.
mean they were not
No, I'm
invited?
talking about the prayer breakfast. You were talking
Yes, the
about
prayer-
at
yes.
Kabule.
At Kabule.
Does it mean they were not invited?
No,
if
but
they did?
anyway,
Anyway, that is
they were
that-
not invited.
But
That's
you see,
a fact.
the point I'm
But
trying to
the
put here
point
is
is-
the point is that you're in the public, your credibility is at stake.
No, it is not.
To me, that's what I'm trying to say.
FDC sits in the leader of opposition shadow cabinet, and the leader of opposition has the prerogative to choose whoever he wants. The leading political party has that prerogative to choose which political party or which entity or which person to be part of the shadow cabinet. We have the Honorable Anna Deke, Member of Parliament for Soroti District. She subscribed to Najana Kumbi. She's a member of the shadow cabinet. We have the Honorable Joanna Lobo, woman member of Parliament for Soroti City. She's subscribed to the shadow cabinet. We have the Honorable the MP for Chua West, PP Okin.
Okay.
She's a member of FDC. She subscribed to the shadow cabinet. Our chief FDC whip in Parliament, the Honorable Professor Yusuf Nsibambi, is a member of shadow cabinet. If it was the way you are presenting it, it would be the onus of the NUP, which is the leading opposition party, which chooses the members of shadow cabinet to send those people away. From shadow cabinet. But by appointing them as members of the shadow cabinet, it shows that we are part of the opposition and we are recognized in the shadow cabinet led by the National Unity Platform.
Interesting. As we take a short break, Mata, I want us to just end with a note on the NRM. Is that whereas other political parties might be considering subjecting themselves to an internal process of choosing their presidential candidate, is that with the NRM there is a SEC resolution of Chove that President Museveni will be the candidate from 2026 and beyond. How is that playing out?
You know, when I listen to the deputy spokesperson of the FDC, there is much that I pick from it. There is much of confusion. they have failed to organize themselves. If you're still fighting and having internal petty fights, then you cannot dislodge a standing government. It is hard. You must take extra efforts and organization. What you said is, as the NRM, of course, the SEC is superior. It takes superior decisions. And I would say that Mosei, as our senior cabal, they looked at him as still able. And when you look at our constitution, you can agree with the decision that was made, that President Museveni is still able-bodied, and he can still push his country. He's still able. He still has a strong vision to move and propel this country. So I will not discuss so much because I'm not a SEC member.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I may not know.
I had Dr. Tang, I think, sometime last week.
Exactly, methodological necessity to make a statement of that nature. But I would expect, if there is other forces, if there are other people that you feel can take up the position of the candidate of the NRM, there is still an opening.
No. Actually, there is none, because Honorable Tanga, I think this week, he addressed media and said that sometime next year they will open the window for party members to pick interest. But he said the only form that they will not avail is that of the chairman of the party.
And now
that one is.
I think Doctor is trying to be overzealous. That is wrong. It is you cannot say that you've safeguarded, that you've erected a strong wall against those that would want to push their candidature for.
No, but you've seen how the NRM has dealt with anyone who has showed interest in
I know,
that. But Fox Odoi, I think you remember when he tried to pick a form. I think it was the previous election, and it was impossible.
No. But that is
Mama Babas.
I know, but you must create a fair ground. If there is a person, a member of the cadre of the NRM, that would wish to contest against President Museveni, then it's okay. Because that is what the Constitution says. It does not bar. Because you must not create laws that keep you. You must not look at constitutions as a mere expedient that you can be gotten rid of to help you as a person. That is the problem, and that is why we've had the issues of the military, of the army, taking a critical role in the civilian operations. Understand?
Yeah.
That Idi Amin looked at the Constitution of Uganda as a mere expedient that he could easily get rid of to help a standing president. Obote.
Yes.
And Amin used the same.
The same.
You understand? To host him. So it is wrong.
Yeah.
So today, if you have discussions that President Museveni, they should erect a strong wall for whoever wants to contest against him within the party, that is wrong. And I don't expose to that.
Yeah. But I think what we agree on is that consensus can be generated from within to say that we shall have President Museveni as our candidate for as long as we wish, because it is an internal democratic process.
I understand,
but
it should be clear.
Yeah.
It should even be put starting from the lowest unit of the party.
All right.
Not simply an apparatchik of the SEC to sit and make a decision of that nature.
So it should be adopted by other organs of the party.
Without participation of the other forces, all structures. There should be a national consultation.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
By way of annual general meeting, then we agree on the same,
agree.
but not simply then.
Most likely, I think that will happen, and we expect that. Can you take a short break, Walid, or you want to make it?
Yes, I want to respond to my colleague that he is asking for much, and there is a difference between reality and ideal. What you are talking about is the ideal situation. The reality is NRM is an appendage. It is a personal property of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Whoever disagree with him is voted out. In NRM, the position of NRM chairman, NRM flag bearer, is permanent and pensionable for Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
But you see, let me come in also.
Listen, I've
and I
listened
think
to you.
he's
My brother, I've
misusing
listened to you.
my words.
Can you listen to me the way I listen to you? So I can cite an example. In 2005, there is a gentleman who presented his ambition to the NRM Electoral Commission chairperson, then Professor Elijah Mushemeza. That is Captain Mugaba Magulu in NRM delegates conference that was in Nambole. When time came for him to go and exercise his constitutional right, I heard it on clear whatever from the RDC Bamwine. He told me he waylaid Lugaba Magulu to a toilet in Nambole. He locked him up in the toilet until Electoral Commission chairman declared Mr. Museveni as the sole candidate. That nobody came out and said, I'm running against you. Then he opened the toilet. And this person came out. So he even said, I saved him. Mzee should actually award me more than what I have because I saved him that very day. So progressively, Mr. Mbabazi, when he came out in 2016, 2015, 2014, and we saw how Anite came out to kill what Mr. Mbabazi was. And he was, the NRM constitution was changed. And that is how the position of the Secretary General
was appointed. It now becomes an appointee.
Was changed from being elective to appointive. It was intended to weed out John Patrick Amama Mbabazi. And what happened in the NRM caucus meeting, how Anita came and did all the funny things on Amama Mbabazi, and how Amama Mbabazi came to be the independent presidential candidate. So in NRM, it has been the history. Nobody can come stand against Museveni. Whoever thinks in the ideal situation, in the ideal thinking, like my brother, NRM, you have no place in NRM. You may think about other parties. Like in FDC. In FDC, we have a track record of having a contestation on the position of party presidency and presidential flag bearer. With General Mugisha Muntu against Dr. Besije, with Miriam Toboy against General Mugisha Muntu, with Honorable Patrick Amuriat Toboy against Ambassador Waswabiri Gwa in the last presidential election, and even the party presidential election, Mugisha versus the Honorable Amuriat Toboy. I think if we are to talk about democracy, democratic dispensation, the Forum for Democratic Party, the Forum for Democratic Change remains the only option, because we have showcased it to Uganda that it is possible to have an internal election and the party moves on and we respect democracy. It's not the case with NRA.
Okay, we are due for a short commercial break and let's just pick it up right from there. See you shortly.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
We'll be back from that short commercial break. We'll just pick it up from where we stopped. But we have been joined by a third panelist, and that is a final year student of law at Makerere University, but also the chairperson of the Students' Guild Tribunal at the university. Ijuka Alan, we are pleased to have you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chidaga. I'm glad to be here.
Let me just bring you into the conversation right away. What do you make of political parties? You look at the opposition, they're all in disarray, but also you have the NRM that has already declared that it has a candidate for 2026 and beyond. So what do you make of political parties?
The whole idea of political parties in Uganda has been historically. It's been one that has faced a lot of turbulence, especially on the premise of how they were formed and how they evolved, and later on how the leaders, the different governments that came in, how they treated what we called political parties. Right before independence, we had the DP, we had the UPC, the election that was there at that time, how it was handled on the basis of religion and then tribal sentiments. Thereafter we have UPC and Kabaka Yeka coalition, that marriage that was never sustained up to 1966 when the Kabaka and Obote could not hold together anymore. Then it became so bad in 1969 when Obote was trying out the move to the left, and he made a declaration when they attempted to assassinate him at Gogo, and he declared that UPC was the only political party. That's when we had a one-party state for the first time. Subsequently, we had a dictatorship that followed. Then we had a disorganized period of leadership when we had military leaders coming in and out, months, days. And then later we had the NRA that came in afterwards. They tried an attempt to make research, like sort of an inquiry into make an investigation of the human rights violations and so on. And also
that's the Ode Commission?
The Odoki Commission that followed in the constitutional inquiries and constitutional promulgation, that process up to 1995 when we had our first constitution. And in our first constitution, which we still have now, of course with many holes that have been patched over time through amendments and changes that we have seen, of course claim to be reflecting the society where we live. The current Uganda, including the political parties, has 3 articles, Article 69, 70 and 71 about political parties. Article 69 talks about political systems. It suggests 2 political systems and also leaves an open door for other political systems. The first one was the movement political system. The second was the multi-party political system. Of course, we had a period of the movement system. There was an argument as to why we had to remain in a movement system. Even when you look at the preamble of the Constitution, looking at the history, a lot of sectarian questions that were occasioning the different wars. It was not the different times of war and political instability were never premised on ideology. Most of the times, it was about who holds power on what platter. Is it religious or is it tribal? When Obote, overhauls the 1962 constitution and brings in another constitution, he loses support for Uganda. That's why Amin comes in. He was welcomed. They never knew what he would become, and actually he stayed in power for long with his dictatorial tendencies because there were those who were siding with him, believing that he was sustaining their sectarian mind and ideology. It is not a political ideology. The nature of Uganda is that we are a diverse community with a lot of ideas, but which are usually marred by our history and also our other sentiments that are not even political. So one thing I must state is that the multi-party dispensation, which we now see in 2005 and today, as we claim, is still a hoax. It is not a reality as we stand. The multi-party dispensation, when President Museveni had gotten into power, his entire ideology was, let us work together. And I really agree with that as a nation. There was a moment when we needed to forge unity as a country. There's a moment when a lot of division had exceeded a point where someone would even explain to you a political ideology and you would understand. But this NRA, through the Bush-built National Resistance Councils in the rural bushes, and it evolved to becoming a government, even a parliament that was formed afterwards. But then people said, of course, the constitution will provide a window that if you want to transition from a movement to this system, feel free. But the current opposition, as we see it today, is a product of why maybe the NRA wanted a movement system, or why they still, the president still insists on we are supposed to remain in a movement system. I am sure the ruling government does not support the idea of a multi-party dispensation. And that's the reality that we must face. And this now goes down to what comrades were arguing here, that yes, a political party has the right to sabotage the other, but on principle. You don't sabotage by arrests. You don't sabotage by disappearances. You don't sabotage by preventing a political party from progressing in its own democratic process as described in the Constitution. So when you see sabotage, that is, of course, world over, it is acceptable, where people even make political statements about others. We had a time when the current president of Uganda made a statement about Chiza that he had HIV in eastern Uganda, and it had a lot of toll on him.
And he said he was about to die.
See,
you can imagine.
all those statements, they can be tolerable in some kinds of politics, you understand? But the kind of dispensation that we have today is that it now goes beyond, the frustration goes beyond what would understand as the ideal of a multi-party dispensation. That there is, at a certain point, there is a level, there is a line you do not cross in sabotage. There's a line you do not cross in disagreeing with the other. Now, when it comes to abductions and so on, it frustrates the whole system. It creates, it restrains even growth of those political parties. If Uganda is to progress as we are today, and we're still having an FDC, in my opinion, which is no longer existed, my comrade will forgive me, because that is my opinion. FDC is no longer existed. Why? Because FDC, over time, has demonstrated that it stood on Chiza Besigye. And that's for a fact, in my opinion, as a citizen of Uganda, who currently holds no affiliation to any political party. Why? Because I feel I will just wait for a candidate who I think at the end of the day I can vote. In 2021, I voted Mugisha Muntu. Why? Because my opinion, he stood for the principles I stood for. Even when he lost, me, I still believe I did not just throw away my vote. I just voted my principles, and that's it. I'm waiting for, because even to face the reality, the political parties of Uganda, as we stand now, they are premised on individuals. When the FDC feels that Muriat feels like, okay, the current leadership cannot bring up an individual who can stand out and the society will see him and believe in him, they'll try to bring in another. And when another political party is coming up, there will be character assassination of the person at the helm of the political party. And then there will be a sabotage by the ruling government, especially by that person at the helm who is now becoming a bit popular. So in the end, we have to face the reality that the political paradigm, the dispensation in which we are, so-called multi-party politics, is just but a hoax. Ugandans should now face this one thing. This whole thing of vote the umbrella, vote the key, vote the what, in my opinion, if Uganda is to progress, should stop. People should scrutinize individuals. People should scrutinize the history of political leaders. Look at them, first of all, what do they stand for? I agree with the arguments here that you find a leader of a political party who doesn't, one of the leaders of a political party who cannot ably argue out what the political party stands for. And that's for a fact. We just need to go back and look at it. We've had rallies. I usually sit down and watch speeches that these leaders make, looking at what Mpuga was saying when he was trying to start a political party, the kind of person he brings on board. Does it reflect the kind of Uganda?
Someone who was beating
Exactly.
doctors in the hospital.
Someone says, I stole a phone, my comrade stole 500 million. So we are in this together. Is that the kind of political party, the foundation of a political party we want to see? We want to be popular. We want to have someone who is popular leading the political party. But at the end of the day, I tell you, if Mpuga starts a political party, leaves that political party, it will die. That's for a fact.
So we are still on the strongman. Strongman syndrome.
We are still on the strongman, like you say, a strongman syndrome. Not just in the ruling government, even in the ruling government. We must be sincere that if Museveni leaves the NRM today, the first thing that will happen, it doesn't die immediately. The first thing that will happen, there will be a power struggle within. Why? Someone will think that I can also be a Museveni, sit at the helm of the NRM, dictate what happens. No one can be. That's for a fact. The roots of NRA are different from the roots of NRM as it stands in a multi-party dispensation. So to stand on the reality of the politics that we are in is that political parties in Uganda
are simply not.
It's a hoax, but then frustrated.
Frustrated as well. Walid, Mata made some comments and I think you were itching to come in about the NRM and how it organizes itself internally. Does that have an implication on other political parties?
Not really, because NRM behaves like it is the one. There is a fusion of the state and the government. It is actually difficult for you to separate the two. They are two in one. For example, the Visos, whom you would expect to be a state apparatus of the state, they are the one running the affairs of the NRM in the grassroots. Everywhere you go in the countryside, the Visos are the engine of the NRM. So it is very difficult for you to change, to separate the two. So I want to agree partly with my colleague. Multi-party is not a hoax, as the way you castigated it in totality. In my own view, we are a young democracy. We are fighting actually to ensure that we have a democratic dispensation. Although Mr. Museveni does not believe in democracy, Mr. Museveni does not believe in a multi-party political dispensation. In his saying, he always say that he was forced on it by the whites. And also, you remember the referendum we had in 2005 and the subsequent Political Parties and Organizations Act that was enacted in the 7th Parliament.
2010.
Not 2005.
2005.
Brought forth the multi-party political dispensation. And what my brother has eloquently stressed out, how Museveni has put all the roadblocks to ensure that the multi-party political dispensation does not operationalize. He still have that clog of the one-party state in his head. And that's why you see he is actually propelling the narrative that political parties are weak, political parties are dead.
Walid,
he bought political parties
Walid,
and so on.
You mentioned to us how you were able to hold a national delegates conference. You were mentioning how you were in Mbale and you had all these rallies. So what exactly do you mean when you say that you're being stopped? Because if you were all over the country, and you mentioned this, you were in Kasese and you said you had many people. So when you say the ruling party is not allowing you space to go and operate, what do you mean?
Yes, initially we had the Public Order Management Act. The purpose of POMA was ostensibly to curtail political movements of political parties. That for me to go out to mobilize, I need to inform Mr. Museveni
No,
that I'm going to mobilize.
there is a constitutional court decision with regards to POMA. What we are speaking about, your activities are as recent as I think this year.
I understand.
Yes.
I was giving a background. Allow me to to finish it.
But you speak something else.
No, it is not something else. The reason why we fought it, the way he said we went to court and challenged it, and it was quashed. It came from that background that the state was using that law to curtail our movement. As I speak, our sister, the NUP, was stopped. There is a letter.
We are talking about you.
There is no problem. There is no problem.
You've
We
been
are all
running
political parties.
activities
Please.
Across
in the
the
I
country,
listen to you.
and you're now blaming that you're being stopped.
I listen to you.
Respond to that.
I listen to you.
Are you moving and you're telling Uganda?
No, we are not. We are not. We are not. By the way, there is a letter. You cannot organize a rally without writing.
I understand, but you've gone
the person who clears you is the police.
So they have always cleared you. So is this
but the
stopping you
NUP,
now?
there is a letter.
No.
There is a letter. Are you protesting that police did stop the NUP from organizing their rallies?
NUP?
No, but we are all political parties.
But you've
what
had a chance.
What the law applies to NUP is what applies to FDC.
Okay, respond for your chance.
We had a rally in Jinja. We had tear gas.
But what
on the day we had the rally, we were stopped from marching. You see? Because if we are a political party, I've never seen it happening when Mohoz goes out or NRM goes out to mobilize. When the army is deployed.
But we had a massive crowd in Soroti.
Those happened. The way NUP had
it was so massive.
The way NUP had previously, but now they issued the letter stopping those rallies from happening. So how do you expect us to move in that kind of arrangement? So we think that our rights are violated. We are stopped. We are being stopped. Because for me, we even challenge. For me to go out to mobilize, do I need a clearance? Because we have a law that gives us freedom of association. Does the law has limitation on our proceedings, on our association, on our assembly? That if I have to go to Muyende, I have to alert Mr. Museveni by writing to his IGP.
So okay, and what I want to ask you this question, because first of all, you acknowledge that you've had opportunity to move across the country and to mobilize. Then you say at some point you were stopped. So is it true that, is it possible that you can move across the country each and every single day?
You can't.
You can't,
According
right?
to the current...
No. Practically speaking, is it possible that FDC can be on the road every single day?
It can't.
It is not possible, right? Practically speaking. So it means that the mere fact that you've been stopped after you've already moved across the country.
Not across the country.
Aren't you finding because
we went to some...
Your alleged stopping comes after you've already traversed the country.
We went to some areas, not the entire country. The entire country, it's something broad. We went to 7, we had 7 rallies. We had one in Mbale, in Soroti, we had in Gulu, we had in Kasese, we had in Jinja, and we had in Lugazi. So they were 7.
Those.
And what were reasons for stopping you?
No, they cited the public order.
We need to look at that later. That was
you need to go and...
spokesperson.
I've said it, and the onus is on you to go and check, not me.
Okay.
So what I want to add that on my colleague, that Museveni, it is not a hoax, but it is he has a control mechanism. When he gives you that liberty to go out, he owns the remote of stopping you. So he has a multi-party dispensation, which he wants to appeal to the whites and the international community that Uganda has a fully-fledged democracy. But in real sense, it is not a fully-fledged democracy because he has the capacity to stop you. He has the roadblocks, the landmine. In the last, listen, before he comes. In the last presidential campaign, my presidential candidate, the Honorable Inginiamu Yatoboy, addressed rallies that were clamped down several times. He's the only presidential candidate that was arrested over 45 times. So, how do you arrest a presidential candidate? How do you tear gas a rally of a presidential candidate? Hiding under the guise of COVID-19. When Aruna Kasolo, a minister by then, had the mammoth gatherings.
Is still a minister?
We saw he was a minister then and he's still a minister, yes. We saw Mr. Museveni addressing a mammoth crowd in the middle of the road in Moroto. Those COVID-19 guidelines could not apply. We saw Honorable Kyagulanyi, his rallies were also clamped down. So we were asking, what kind of democracy are you projecting that Uganda is under the multi-party dispensation?
Can you allow him to make a response? Just
no problem.
Shortly, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Chidega. You know, I think my friend has just arrived to understanding the politics of Uganda. He does not understand what is happening. You know, these weak political parties have a strategy, and we've used it at the Hill. Every time we wanted to market a candidate. If this goes, it holds the procession. But since they want to create that imagery, that public imagery, that we are being stopped. Honestly, FDC has got the chance to move. Whatever you've been saying, it has been planned by them.
So they are just trying to create some sort of sympathy that we are being stopped.
It is
in fact
an imagery for sympathy. We could have students, we could have a candidate at Makerere. Police has given us guidelines, but we want to set a candidate. You call a media house, you call a police officer. You understand? You create a scene. You create chaos yourself. You could have Lumumba students, organize them to come and antagonize the same procession you've organized, so that we could say, Micho has disorganized us. This is what they are doing. We would not have any problem with the FDC movie. Even the numbers you saw on TV, some of them were being shopped from different areas of the country. You understand? And they are internal players giving them a transport refund. This is what he cannot tell you. I think he's not invited to top meetings where disquisitions of that nature are discussed. So all of that, it is calling for public sympathy. Never at any time, and it is them. Because I normally tell police officers, even when we could have these gatherings, that please, you've guided. Let's move.
Because
don't quail.
Because the question is, if police allowed them to have 7 rallies, like he has said, then what reason would they have now for stopping you?
They reach a time when they know, because they go to areas where they have some small support. That is where they go. So either they have to create for reasons for why they have not peregrinated to other areas of the country. So at the 7th is when they start planning how they could do
stop.
Of course, it is a tactical withdrawal. You understand?
Tactical withdrawal. I think you're hearing.
We could do this. That is why we used to say Makerere is Uganda summarized. I don't know where I went to school. That is why because all of this is planned. We could know we are weak. We are going to Douglas Villa, but our candidate, honestly, we've not mobilized well today. What should we do? You bring goonies from Lumumba, that very wall, to come and antagonize. So this is what they do.
Walid.
Because there would be no reason why you've traversed the country to 7 sub-regions, and you're stopped.
So these are just false.
It is a tactical withdrawal. We've seen this. These ones have arrived to that kind of politics, sophisticated politics at a later time. So that is why you can come here, you know, we were stopped. The other time he was telling us, but we had the numbers. And then you're saying Museveni is stopping you. Use the little time. There is no ground that is fertile for you, conducive 100%. You must be extraordinary, even in planning. You cannot tell me that Obote put a conducive environment for them to maneuver, to bombard and pacify their success by 86. It was a tug of war.
Why did you remove him?
You get? It was a tug of war.
Why did you remove
They
him?
had to create and strategize and maintain themselves in the same. So you want everything smooth. You understand? That is why I'm saying that I do not know how these people in the opposition are trained. I am not privileged to know. I don't know how they are trained.
Let me just bring it back, Ndugu Walid. Walid, apparently these are false accusations because you're portraying a picture that you aren't allowed to operate and to mobilize. Yet in fact, what we see on ground is that you've had the opportunity to move. So identifying an excuse for your in-performance as a party.
One, I thought my brother was going to offer me clear, plausible information to counter my argument, but he just veered on propaganda, and I want to clear the air on what he has said. That one, the NRM has intelligence networks across the country. Just the way he has boosted, just stamped that he was aware of what we were planning. What failed the regime for us to die in our movie? That if we planned it to move that way. So the viewers should know how the regime operates. The regime, first of all, they thought they underestimated us at first. They thought FDC would not have the numbers.
You don't have numbers.
Then where
You
did we
speak
get
of
the people
numbers.
who came?
You shop them.
Then that is number. If you are talking about shopping,
pay.
that is numbers. That is number.
You're looking
I don't think
for idle
I
youths
listen to
who
you.
have nothing to do.
I think we need
We
to
know
have
that.
a good debate.
But you don't have numbers.
We need to have a good debate where we listen to each other.
Please.
This is not a market. So, first of all, if he said we never had numbers, but he has accepted that we had numbers, then that shows his ineptness. Secondly, that is how the regime actually projected us at first, that we could not have marshal the numbers that we had on the valleys. And we ended up, because FDC is a grounded party, and I want to allay the fears of my colleague that FDC without Dr. Besje is no more. And some people may have that kind of thinking, which Mr. Museveni actually has successfully engineered into the heads of the people.
But you see, Walid, again, I want to interject, and I'll give you more time on this. Is that you have just told us here that it was in fact Dr. Besigye's intention to remain at the helm of the party and remain in control. Now you're telling us that it is President Museveni who projected that narrative. So, like, are you seeing where there is contradiction?
No, you are mixing things.
No. Earlier on, in your own words, you said that Dr. Kiza Besigye has always wanted to be at the helm.
Please.
No, it was on record here. In the first segment, if you have forgotten, I will remind you, it was on record. You said it here on the show.
For the viewers, I have said it is the interest of Mr. Museveni to ensure that political parties, the people who form the political parties, once they go, political parties' interests, also influence one with the founders of the political parties. That's how Dr. Besigye, when Dr. Besigye stepped aside as a party president in 2012, people thought FDC would be no more. We had General Mugisha Muntu, who took mantle of the FDC, and he maintained the stability of the party. When he left, the Honorable Engineer Patrick Kamuyatoboy came, and he has maintained the stability of the party. No, even you will say, when Dr. Besigye,
without Besigye, they could not even get a percentage point.
When Dr. Besigye was the party president of FDC, we had a split of Honorable Betty Kame. She left the party together with Honorable Nzima. They left the party. The party stayed, remained.
But we are talking about
General Muntu, when he left the presidency of the party, the party remained.
You failed to make
We
a
had
percentage point
30,
in
listen, in the last election, in
They got how many percent in last election?
Listen,
they didn't make a percentage point.
listen.
FDC.
Yes.
In 2016,
Yes, they didn't make
in
a percentage
2016,
point without Besigye.
in 2016,
Didn't they come third in the presidential election?
Listen,
FDC.
listen.
FDC came third.
Not with a percentage point.
listen, in 2016, we had 36 members of parliament who came with Dr. Besigye. When Engineer Patrick Kamuyatoboy took over in 2021, we had in that election, we returned 32 members of parliament. That was the time when General Muntu left the party, he left with 22 members of parliament. But we had to return, Honorable Amuliat, you must credit him, that he returned 32 members of parliament. That shows that there is stability in the party. If there was no stability, even the media was saying, no, if this is no more, you will struggle to return 5 members of parliament. But we returned 32 members of parliament.
Okay, fair enough.
FDC, that shows FDC is grounded at the grassroots. There are people who are attached emotionally with the party, and they are willing to take on the mantle. So it is the same way. Just like our colleagues left, we are struggling to ensure that the party, we market the party, we market the ideals of the party to the people, and we shall do the same, and you will wait in the coming election. The election will showcase the results. So I don't want to share the picture like my colleagues have shared, that this is normal.
Okay, fair
We are
enough.
still a force to reckon with.
Okay. As we wrap it up, Alan, I'll give you 3 minutes. The rest of us, I'll give you a minute for your parting shots. But Alan, in your 3 minutes, could you just maybe make propositions on what you think could be the legal reforms that you think, if brought in place, would make political parties stronger? Is it an issue of the public financing of these political parties, or you think that the law is okay as it is? The law that governs political parties is okay, and it should create a free and fair level platform for competition. And if it is insufficient, then what proposals do you think we could adopt?
First of all, the law relating to how political parties operate in Uganda. You know, Uganda's laws are usually among the best when they are made. And when any glitch appears in some of those laws, they are quickly challenged in courts of law, and the error is rectified. We've witnessed it so many times. All the political laws that are made to curtail political activism and so on, they are withdrawn through the court system. Now, when you look at the Public Order Management Act, a section that was giving a lot of sort of dictatorial power to the Inspector General of Police, IGP, that until you write to the IGP, you cannot hold a gathering. Like it was so heavy on the person, and all the citizens of Uganda could not gather. I think even churches were almost starting to write letters to ask for permission, but it was challenged. Mwanga Chivumbi versus Attorney General, and it was overturned. The challenge comes here that the dynamics that have been created, especially in maintaining public order, even without the harshness of the Public Order Management Act, the forces, the armed forces, are still being used to curtail the activities of the political parties. The whole idea that, like he said, they did traversed the country and made six rallies.
7.
And then you say the 7th is where there was a challenge. Now, when you look at it from the legalistic point of view, we don't have to say that to a large extent it was successful, so the law has worked since there's only one glitch. No. The law is to operate that even to the lowest point, it must protect the people. So we don't look at it on the point of, oh, we allowed you to.
Yes.
That means that you still have power to allow and to stop. You understand? So the challenge that remains now is that there is the legal reforms that might come, whether it is to encourage mergers, whether it is to encourage, the education level of leaders. If we are saying that we are looking at quality, how educated someone is, other influences will remain. Political parties will remain centered on individuals until political parties in Uganda outgrow and mature the whole ideology that unless Vesege is here, this political party will die. And I want to be sincere to my comrade from the FDC. The reality is, FDC without Vesege will struggle and follow the same track of the DP. You understand? At least DP does not that much hold an individual to a certain helm, that it can have its leader go and serve the government and come back, and it remains a political party for many years. But I can tell you the truth. FDC, the way it split was so bad that it started from manhunting, individuals. This one ate the money, this one did not. I did not touch it, I did not get it. Then a report is published. To be sincere, the reality of political parties in Uganda is that they are now there's a challenge from within. The constitution under Article 69 and 71, actually 72, on multi-party dispensation, it encourages internal democracy. So if a political party keeps splitting, how many are we going to have in an election? I also disagree with my comrade there who makes reference to Makere politics over and over. Whether it is the illegal approach to achieving what you want, it is not supposed to be the ideal and what we should advocate for in such a debate. We shouldn't advocate for a fact that let us use goons, let us apply this strategy, let us apply this approach, let us apply this. And that shouldn't be what we are focusing on. It shouldn't be what is at the helm of our approach to things. I'm avoiding the whole ideology of let us have political reforms and so on, even if we have laws written down so clear, with the same kind of Ugandan approach to politics and political parties. We'll still have the kinds of FDC that we have now, we'll have the DP that we have now, we'll have the NUP with their splinter groups. Political parties, as I conclude, are like religions. As soon as you attach emotions over and above doctrine, a political party will die. We have had faith. I'm someone who is so much into religion and faith. And I have lots of reservations to many religious sects. On principle, I'll meet someone and tell them I have reservations toward this. And they will argue and argue, and then we'll go to the scripture perspective. Same thing with political parties. When you say that we stand for this as the FDC, you only say it when you go to a media coverage. Then when you go back internally, interests come, you don't settle them internally. We have splinters. We have had one of Bujisha Muntu, that one is it's on its own. We have this one now, it has created another one. So
maybe does that speak to the internal conflict resolution mechanisms within parties?
Yes, internally, political parties are failing. Even when you look at the current NUP, I was telling my friends recently that the fate of NUP will be determined after the 2026 elections. Why? The percentage they will get in this election, after this whole frustration of Mpuga, another splinter group coming up, now they are going to start witch hunting each other. There will be, the words that will be spoken. Now it will be no longer NUP versus NRM, no. NUP versus NUP internally.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
And so with FDC.
So with DP somehow, we have splinter groups.
So it means NRM is headed for
exactly
a very easy election.
And somehow, to stand with Comrade Malta, the reality is, when you are leading a certain organization or group, you hold a certain ideology. Your plan is that people you by all means, people should follow your ideology. Now, when it goes against the constitutional principles, you know that every time that the police wants to curtail meetings and so on, they will lift Article 43 of the Constitution on the limitation of rights. It should be justifiable, you know, in a democratic and fair, that
Demonstrably justifiable. Yeah.
in a free and democratic society. That for your enjoyment of rights, it should not prejudice the enjoyment of rights
of others.
Now, that is why you have seen demonstrations to parliament curtailed before they reach, and then they raise the same. Then they are colonial crimes that are still in the law, public nuisance. Something that was created to hold Ugandans, Africans, to do cheap labor.
The
that
Bataka
when
group.
you're not working in the morning, you have become a public nuisance. So go to the gardens and work for free. So it's the same law that we are still upholding today. The other laws under which they got this other faction that were going to demonstrate at the Kenyan embassy and so on about messages, arrest and so on. A small provision of the
penal
traffic,
code.
No, it's the traffic, the roads and traffic act, the roads act,
Safety.
the Roads and Safety Act. The provision that they picked is also related to public nuisance. Something small. I had one of my friends who was arrested, and he was telling me, these people were waiting for us. We just stepped out, they got us.
True.
So the reality of the matter is this. The political, I will restate it as I conclude. The whole idea of multi-party politics in Uganda is a hoax. Why? It is being frustrated. Moving forward, political parties must start organizing internally. Leave out politics of identity. That NUP has a larger support in Uganda. It doesn't make sense to me. That's why I can never, until NUP reforms its approach, especially by what it puts to the public, not what they write on paper. That one, to me, over time, I've learned that those are just for registration and so on. Until what you put to the public,
In practice.
what you stand for, how you treat those people who make mistakes within, how you handle them, you bastardize them. You want to, to stand on what they have done so that you also get over them.
Yes.
In reality, it kills all the political parties that we have. At the end of the day, we'll have the kinds of UPC that we had that time, the Kabaka Yekand, what merge. Even if we say, oh, let's have all the opposition parties merge. We've seen them merge before, we've seen them fall out again.
Yeah.
Because why? They merged on the basis of individuals agreeing, not on the basis of principles. Coming to consensus. So in my opinion, we are truly moving forward towards growth of political parties. But the challenge is, by 2026, are we going to have a kind of FDC factioning that we're having? Are we going to have the kind of NUP that will be a force to reckon with when it meets NRM? That is very strategic on maintaining its movement system. Let us send it out to the population that what we are standing for, they are principles. If your political party doesn't represent your principles, leave it.
It's a no-go area. Yes. Walid, in your 2 minutes, you could as well talk about the possibility of the opposition rallying around a single candidate. Is it possible?
It may not be possible because of the varied interests. I can give an example.
Would you wish for that to happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
that is what I wish for.
Who would you wish to be the face of the opposition?
No.
In your wish as well.
I may not give you the specific person.
Holding your cards
very, not be fair.
Very close to your chest.
But that is the ideal situation, which I think it would be good for the country. I do agree that the multi-party dispensation that we have, we are just forcing it, especially we in the opposition, the political players, we are forcing it to happen, both internally and even externally. We are forcing the regime to accept that political parties exist, political parties have their rights, and we must have a space, a political space to play politics. And I also believe that internal contradictions are affecting, making a tall order on the political parties. Political parties are lacking internal dispute resolution mechanism to handle such disputes. I also contend that we have a big man syndrome within political parties, across the board, something that is circumventing multi-party political dispensation to happen. And I think all is not lost. There is hope at the end of the day. One, my hope is that regime change will be the solution for all. Because whatever that we are going through, especially we in the opposition, is on account of the longevity of a regime. The regime has mastered the way of disorganizing the opposition, and also how it can cling onto power for longevity. And part of it is disorganizing the opposition. So I do believe that once the regime falls, which we are working tirelessly to achieve, we shall achieve the true democratic dispensation, the multi-party dispensation that Ugandans are fighting for. Yeah.
Okay, Mata, your parting shots, and maybe you could speak to the future of the NRM as well.
Thank you so much. I want to thank my brother. I want to delve into the curriculum associated with these elaborate statements. But I wish Uganda stability. And only we can achieve that if we can look at these institutions as very important institutions that that can carry on a task to say that Uganda is in the next 100 years still stable. We've had for instance, when you give an example of Kenya, the opposition had issues like we have in Uganda. That was after the 1990 Saba. Moyas reopened the political parties. They failed to agree on a candidate. But it also goes back to our interests. Are they national or they are simply personal and selfish interests? Because the goal is a Uganda. But you may find that it is hard to have a single candidate rally against the running government because each and every person is selfish. That selfishness, that it's me. So the Kenyans failed to agree on a single candidate in 1992. Mwai Kibaki had crossed to DP. You had Dr. Kenneth Matiba. And they scored. And I remember Daniel Torotich Moi did not even make 40%. But when you look at their percentage, 37. If they had come up with a single name, they would have an issue of Daniel Torotich Moi out. But they failed to agree. That also happened in 2022. Also the splitting of Ford Kenya, Forum for Restoration of Democracy, to Ford City and Ford Kenya. So they should learn from our neighbors, because it is also good to take to do comparative politics. But also, if we want our political parties to grow, even the recruitment, political parties, I am not sure how the opposition, for the NRM, I am privileged that I know a system under which we are nurtured into our party. But I am not sure of the opposition. Let's build a platform that can give you national characters with a national face. Council Atujika has been saying that the idea of we are very powerful in Uganda. You cannot lead a country where you think Baganda will support you. You must have and appeal to other regions. You've seen it during this recent election that FDC has been winning in the Greater Kigezi and the Greater Teso. For the first time, WSJ not being on the ballot, they have resorted back to Kaguta, President Museveni, not supporting NUP. because there has been a picture that UNOP is Uganda. So that is terribly wrong. But also I should request those that are at the Aparachek of the NRM, if they wish this country survival after the NRM, you should give and create a conducive environment for other political parties to grow. It is very important because if you're organizing a transition, you even have a task to organize those to succeed you. So you must let these institutions grow. They should survive. But if you frustrate them, you may create a more repugnant state when the NRM is not there. Because we also have issues within the NRM that I am not sure that our party has been built to survive after a single President Museveni. I am not yet sure. You cannot assure me that NRM can give you 100 seats in parliament without state power. That I cannot assure you. So let government and those operating within create a fertile ground, a conducive environment
for fair competition.
Absolutely. You will give space for these other political parties to grow because they are the alternative government after you're out.
True.
What other countries have done is that even with overstaying in power, they have built institutions. Institutions were not touched because these institutions, the political parties and other, of course, state institutions like police, the army, it is what can help a country survive without you. If Hosni Mubarak had detached the institution of the army in Egypt, I'm not sure that Egypt would be surviving. It would be a basket case like Libya. So you leave them grow. Otherwise, if you do not, then you will create a more detestful country tomorrow, which we never want to receive.
Wow, interesting. That brings us to the conclusion of this episode of the Youth Roundtable, and of course, many thanks to your comrades, Alan, Lubega, and of course, Mata, for your time and for your in-depth analysis on this topic. Again, I wish you a merry festive season, and until next week, same time, same place, have a lovely afternoon. Bye.